Some of the most dangerous compromises in life are not the loud, obvious ones. They're the quiet ones we make with ourselves just to keep the peace. That's where the trouble begins. You start saying yes when you mean no. You smile when your heart is breaking. You nod in agreement with things that go against your convictions. And you do it not because you're weak, but because you've been taught that being nice is always the right thing to do. But I want to tell you today, being nice at the cost of your soul is not righteousness, it's surrender. And not to God, but to pressure, to guilt, to fear, and to people who never cared about your truth to begin with. You see, we've been conditioned to think that being liked is more important than being honest. That harmony is more important than wholeness. But how long can you keep betraying your own soul in the name of peace before that soul becomes a stranger to you? There comes a point when people are no longer using your kindness, they're abusing your silence. They're feeding off your compliance. And what feels like love is often just convenience. They like that you don't speak up. They like that you always say yes. They like that you never make them uncomfortable. But what about you? You weren't created to be everybody's cushion. You weren't born to carry everyone's comfort on your back while your own spirit is collapsing. That's not servanthood. That's self-destruction. And I believe there is someone listening right now who knows exactly what that feels like. You've been the strong one, the agreeable one, the one who never pushes back. But inside you're tired. Not because you don't love people, but because you've never truly loved yourself enough to set a boundary. And I want to tell you, there is no glory in being a doormat. There is no heavenly reward for allowing yourself to be drained, disrespected, and discarded in the name of being agreeable. God didn't create you to please people, He created you for purpose. And sometimes that purpose will require you to disappoint others. It will require you to say no. It will require you to walk away. And yes, they will call you selfish. Yes, they will say you've changed. But don't let that stop you. Because you are not who they imagined you are, who you were born to become. There's a story in every life where a person reaches their limit. They wake up and realize they've been living small just to make others comfortable. They realize that every fake smile cost them something. Every forced yes stole a little more of their peace. And in that moment, they make a decision not to be mean, not to be bitter, but to be honest, to be whole, to stop twisting themselves into shapes that fit everyone else's vision. That decision changes everything. And some of you are standing right there on the edge of that decision. You know it's time. You felt it in the tears you cry when no one's watching. You've heard it in the silence of your own prayers. And I want you to hear this now. You don't have to keep living like this. You don't have to be the nice one who gets nothing in return. You don't have to prove your worth by being endlessly available, endlessly agreeable, endlessly invisible. You have a right to be seen. You have a right to be heard. You have a right to stand in your truth, even if it makes others uncomfortable. You're not here to fit in. You're here to stand out. You're not here to keep everyone happy. You're here to walk in truth. You're not here to shrink back. You're here to rise. And the moment you stop betraying yourself for the comfort of others, you'll begin to feel what real peace is. Because real peace doesn't come from people liking you, it comes from you liking who you are when no one's watching. So stop being the nice person just for the sake of being nice. Start being the honest person, the courageous person, the kind person with strength. And remember, when you stand for yourself, you're also standing for the part of you that was silent for far too long. Evil doesn't stop at your kindness, it feeds on it. And that's a hard truth for some of us to swallow, because we were raised to believe that if we just keep being good, If we just keep smiling and helping and turning the other cheek, the world will eventually honor our heart. But I have lived long enough and seen enough broken people to tell you the truth. There are those who will see your kindness not as something to respect, but as something to use. Your good intentions don't change their motives. Your gentle spirit doesn't soften their cruelty. You can pour your soul into them, and they will drink it dry and ask for more. There are people who are not looking for love, they're looking for leverage. And when they find someone who doesn't fight back, someone who always forgives without requiring accountability, someone who confuses enabling with compassion, they don't stop. No, they go deeper. They ask for more favors. They demand more of your time. They cross more boundaries. And with every act of silence, with every moment you choose to just let it go to keep the peace, they grow more confident in their control over you. It's not peace they're after, it's power. And your kindness is the open door. I want to speak to someone today who's been mistaking emotional manipulation for love. You've been told if you really cared, you'd stay. You've been told good people don't walk away. You've been told that turning the other cheek means never setting a limit, never closing the door, never saying enough. But that's not the full truth. You were never meant to be a sacrifice on the altar of someone else's comfort. You were never asked to be a prisoner of your own goodness. Love doesn't demand silence. Love doesn't demand surrender. Love tells the truth even when it hurts. Love says no even when it's misunderstood. I believe there is a wisdom that comes with walking through seasons of pain and disappointment. The kind of wisdom that teaches you that being kind doesn't mean being blind, and sometimes the most loving thing you can do is remove your presence from a place where your peace is no longer protected. Sometimes walking away is not an act of cruelty, it's an act of clarity. You can't save someone who's using your love as a weapon. You can't rescue someone who refuses to respect the hand that keeps lifting them. And the enemy of your soul will use your kindness against you if you're not careful. He will whisper to you, don't speak up, don't rock the boat, don't offend them. He will convince you that being quiet is being spiritual. But understand this, there is a difference between being peaceful and being passive. One brings healing, the other brings harm, and too many of us are bleeding silently because we're afraid of what will happen if we finally tell the truth. There are moments when silence is not grace, it's agreement. When you don't speak up, you give room for darkness to grow. When you don't set a boundary, you allow chaos to take root. When you keep tolerating what breaks you, you teach people that it's okay to treat you that way. And let me tell you something, you teach people how to treat you. If you keep giving without wisdom, forgiving without change, accepting without discernment, you're not doing anyone a favor. You're encouraging a cycle that will only continue until you say this stops here. There is no shame in being kind, but there is danger in not balancing that kindness with strength. There is danger in thinking that the louder person is always right. There is danger in giving someone your heart when they've already proven they don't know how to handle it. You can love people and still protect your peace. You can serve people and still say no. You can forgive people and still walk away. That's not being mean, that's being wise. It is time to stop believing that goodness means silence. Time to stop thinking that being spiritual means letting people break you. If they keep doing the same things that hurt you and all you do is stay quiet, you're not helping them, you're giving them permission. And at some point you must decide that your peace is too precious to be sacrificed on the altar of someone else's dysfunction. There is a fierce love that says, I will not let evil keep living in my life through fake friendships, abusive relationships, or guilt-tripped loyalty. That kind of love sets people free, including you. because the enemy can't operate where truth is present. He can't thrive in a place where someone finally stands up and says, "No more." There's something powerful that happens when a person finally stops apologizing for having standards. When they stop shrinking themselves down so others can feel tall. When they stop explaining their boundaries like they owe the world a reason for protecting their peace. And I want to tell you today, if you've been carrying guilt for choosing what's healthy for you, that guilt does not come from God. It comes from people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. It comes from a culture that glorifies self-sacrifice, even when it turns into self-destruction. But you weren't created to keep burning just so other people can stay warm. There's a difference between love and obligation. One flows freely from the heart. The other is squeezed out of fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of being misunderstood. But fear is not the foundation of a healthy life. Truth is. And truth says you don't owe everyone access to your life. You don't owe explanations for why you protect your time, your mind, or your soul. Saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you free. You are not made to be everyone's emergency contact. You are not sent here to be available to every demand, every opinion, every expectation. You have a purpose that requires focus. You have a calling that requires clarity. And every time you let someone cross a boundary because you're afraid of how they'll react, you're putting their comfort above your calling. That's not love, that's bondage. And some of us have been living in that bondage for so long, we've forgotten what it feels like to be free. I want you to know that having standards doesn't make you hard to do with, it makes you serious. And being serious about your life is not something to apologize for. If you require respect, that's not pride, it's dignity. If you don't tolerate chaos, that's not rudeness, it's wisdom. And if you walk away from people who constantly drain you, that's not coldness, it's survival. Because not everyone deserves front row access to your journey, especially those who only show up to distract, disrespect, or discourage. And I know it's not easy. The moment you start drawing lines, people will accuse you of changing. They'll say you've become distant, that you think you're better, that you've lost your kindness. But don't let those words pull you back. Don't let guilt sabotage the growth that's trying to take root in your life. You are not who you used to be, and that's a good thing. Growth requires distance. Clarity requires silence. Peace requires separation. Sometimes the only way to get back to yourself is to walk away from what made you lose yourself. There are people who will only love you when you're broken and easy to control. They're not interested in the healed version of you. They like the version that stayed quiet, that didn't ask for anything, that tolerated everything. But when you start standing tall, they call it arrogance. When you start speaking truth, they call it attitude. Don't be afraid of their labels. Don't let their discomfort keep you chained to a role you've outgrown. You don't have to be small so someone else can feel big. You don't have to dim your light because it exposes the darkness in others. Let me tell you something important. Jesus himself had boundaries. He didn't allow everyone to follow him everywhere. He didn't give his time to every crowd. He walked away when it was time to walk away. He went up to the mountain alone to rest and pray. He knew the value of silence. He knew when to speak and when to be still. And if the Son of God didn't apologize for setting limits, neither should you. The people who belong in your life will not be offended by your growth. They won't make you feel guilty for healing. They won't guilt trip you for saying no. In fact, they will respect you more for knowing who you are and what you will no longer tolerate. Because real love doesn't demand that you destroy yourself to stay connected. Real love honors your wholeness, not your exhaustion. So if you've been apologizing for your standards, stop today. If you've been making excuses for your boundaries, stop today. If you've been shrinking yourself to keep others comfortable, stop today. You have nothing to explain for protecting what God is building inside of you. And if someone walks away because of that, let them go. Because anything that leaves when you start choosing yourself was never meant to stay. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to be faithful to the truth inside you. Let them misunderstand you. Let them talk. Let them say what they want, but don't you ever again feel bad for choosing peace over pressure, truth over approval, and purpose over popularity. God never called you to be liked. He called you to be bold. And if you're going to walk in truth, you have to accept this. Not everyone is going to applaud your journey. Not everyone will understand the fire in your soul, the boundaries you set, or the silence you've chosen to keep. Some people will leave when you stop trying to please them. Others will turn cold when you no longer make yourself available for their chaos. But I came to tell you being rejected for being real is better than being loved for being fake. We live in a world that rewards performance. If you smile enough, they'll cheer. If you agree enough, they'll keep you close. But the moment you start to rise, the moment you start to think differently, walk differently, speak differently suddenly, the ones who used to love you become quiet. That's not a coincidence. That's confirmation. You're no longer dancing for their approval, and now they don't know how to handle you. But let them be uncomfortable. You were not put on this earth to be like you were placed here to live with purpose, to speak truth, and to walk boldly in what God called you to do. Some of the most powerful voices to ever live weren't the most popular. They weren't the most celebrated. In fact, they were often misunderstood, hated, rejected, even silenced. Why? Because they didn't serve people's comfort, they served the truth. They didn't bow to applause, they stood in conviction. And every one of us must decide what kind of life we're going to live. Will we live to be liked? Or will we live to be led by something greater? It's not easy. Approval is addictive. Being accepted feels good. Being liked feels safe. But when you live for applause, you die when the crowd goes silent. And the crowd will go silent when you stop giving them what they want, when you stop entertaining the dysfunction, when you stop settling for being the nice person just to keep the room comfortable. That's when the praise turns to whispers. That's when the support turns into silence. And that's when your character is tested not by how loud they cheer, but by how steady you stay when the cheering stops. Many people think strength is loud, but real strength is quiet. It's not in shouting over others, it's in standing when others walk away. It's in staying true when no one's watching. It's in being willing to disappoint others so you don't disappoint your own soul. Some of you have been shrinking yourself just to be accepted. You've been hiding your voice to avoid tension. You've been molding yourself into someone more likable, more palatable, more agreeable. But I want you to hear me. God didn't anoint you to be liked. He anointed you to be faithful. And sometimes faithfulness means losing friends, losing followers, losing approval, but finding your true self in the process. You will not be able to walk in boldness if you're addicted to being liked. You will not fulfill your purpose if you need everyone to clap for it. You must be willing to be misunderstood. You must be willing to walk alone. You must be willing to say, even if they don't see it, I know who I am. Even if they turn away, I'm still standing in truth, because boldness isn't about how loud your voice is. It's about how rooted your heart is in what's right. Some of you are delaying your breakthrough because you're still trying to make everyone happy. Still waiting for the green light from people who never cared. Still looking for permission from those who secretly hoped you'd stay small. Let them talk. Let them whisper. Let them leave. But don't let their opinions rob you of your voice. Don't let their silence cause you to question your direction. You don't need their approval to walk in your assignment. If you've got peace, that's your confirmation. If you've got conviction, that's your compass. Stop measuring your worth by how many people stay around you. Start measuring it by how faithful you've been to what's inside you. Stop trying to be everyone's favorite. Start trying to be God's servant. Because when you walk in boldness, when you walk in truth, when you refuse to bow to the crowd, heaven notices even if the world doesn't. So take your eyes off the approval of man. Take your heart out of the hands of those who don't value it. Lift your head, stand firm, speak up, and walk boldly, not because everyone agrees, but because you know who sent you. That is when you step out of the prison of popularity and into the power of purpose. Being nice doesn't build strength, it drains it. And there are too many people walking around today exhausted, not because they've been fighting battles, but because they've been trying to keep the peace, worn down not by conflict, but by compromise. And let me tell you, there is no greater weight than carrying the burden of a false version of yourself. When you're constantly trying to be everything for everyone, constantly afraid of hurting feelings or being misunderstood, your soul starts to ache. You smile, but it's forced. You serve, but it's heavy. You agree, but inside you're screaming. That is not strength, that is silent suffering. Strength isn't about how much you can endure from others. Real strength is found in the ability to walk in truth, even when it's uncomfortable. It's in the courage to say what needs to be said, and to stand when others would rather you sit down and stay quiet. But if you've been taught that being a good person means keeping your mouth shut, always agreeing, never confronting, always tolerating, then you've been taught wrong. Because the truth is, you were never meant to carry other people's dysfunction just to keep your nice reputation intact. Some of the most broken people are the ones who appear the most agreeable. They never say no, never push back, never disappoint. But behind that smile is a soul that's been stretched too thin. Behind that nod is a mind filled with quiet resentment. That's not peace, that's a prison. And the longer you stay in it, the more strength it drains from your spirit. There's no power in pretending. There's no growth in hiding. And there's no healing in silence. Many of us are afraid to be honest because we think it will cost us relationships. But I want to tell you something. It's better to lose people than to lose yourself. It's better to walk alone in truth than to walk with a crowd that only values the version of you that doesn't speak up. You may think you're preserving relationships by avoiding truth, but in reality, you're destroying the relationship you have with yourself. Every time you avoid a hard conversation, every time you allow someone to disrespect you without correction, you chip away at your confidence. You slowly teach yourself that your voice doesn't matter, but it does. Your thoughts matter. Your feelings matter. Your needs matter. And if being nice means ignoring all of that, then it's not niceness, it's neglect. You don't become stronger by hiding your pain. You become stronger by facing it. By learning to say, I'm not okay with that. By learning to walk away when someone crosses a line you've drawn in the sand. That's where real strength is. Not in how long you can endure abuse, but in how quickly you can recognize it and take action. Not in how many people like you, but in how many people truly respect you. And let me be clear, respect is not something you beg for. It's something you command by the way you carry yourself. You don't have to be mean to be strong. You don't have to be cruel to be firm. But you do have to be honest. You do have to be consistent. And you do have to love yourself enough to say, I won't allow this anymore. Because when you stop protecting everyone else's comfort and start protecting your peace, you begin to recover all the strength you lost trying to be liked. Some of you have lost your fire. You used to have it. You used to speak with boldness. You used to walk with confidence, but somewhere along the line you let life convince you that being soft and silent would make things easier. But it hasn't. It's only made things heavier. You're not here to be agreeable, you're here to be authentic. And the world doesn't need another people pleaser. It needs someone who can walk in truth and still love deeply. Someone who knows when to help and when to walk away. Someone who can be kind without being spineless. That's what real strength looks like. It's not easy to rebuild what you've allowed others to tear down. It's not easy to reclaim your voice after years of silence, but it is possible. And the first step is simple. Stop calling your exhaustion kindness. Stop calling your bitterness peacekeeping. Stop pretending everything is fine just to make others feel comfortable. Start telling the truth. Start choosing your peace. Start loving yourself the way God loves you, fully, fearlessly, and with unwavering grace. Because the truth is, your strength doesn't come from being accepted, it comes from being anchored. And when you are anchored in truth, you don't need to chase applause. You don't need to force approval. You just stand firm, rooted, unshaken. Because you finally know strength was never in being silent, it was in being whole. Be kind, yes, but be fierce with your life. That's the balance we've forgotten. Somewhere along the line we confuse kindness with weakness, silence with wisdom, and suffering with strength. But real kindness doesn't mean allowing chaos. It doesn't mean keeping doors open to people who continue to slam them in your face. And it certainly doesn't mean sacrificing your purpose for someone else's convenience. Being kind is noble. But if it isn't rooted in truth and guarded by courage, it will leave you empty, bitter, and broken. There is a difference between being kind and being nice. Kindness is a fruit of strength. Kindness is boundaries. Kindness knows when to give and when to pull back. But niceness, the way the world defines it, is rooted in fear. Fear of not being liked. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of losing a place in someone else's story. And too many people are living as prisoners to that fear, always agreeable, always available, always quiet, hoping that by being nice they'll finally be loved, respected, and seen. But let me tell you, the people who only love you when you stay small, when you stay silent, when you stay convenient, they don't love you. They love the version of you that doesn't challenge their comfort. True kindness says, I love you, but I won't lie for you. True kindness says, I care for you, but I won't carry what's not mine to carry. True kindness doesn't avoid the hard conversations, it leans into them. It doesn't ignore the warning signs, it heeds them. It doesn't allow someone to walk all over it and call it love. It says, if I must walk away to honor what's right, I will. That's not cruelty, that's wisdom. That's fierce love. That's what the world needs more of, not another nice person who bends and breaks to keep others happy, but a kind soul who knows who they are, what they believe, and what they will no longer tolerate. Some of you have given so much of yourselves in the name of being good, but now you're left with fragments. You've poured into people who never gave anything back. You've stayed in places that drained you just to avoid disappointing others. You've silenced your voice so long you've forgotten what it even sounds like. That is not the life God intended for you. You were not created to be constantly poured out without ever being filled. You were not made to be everything for everyone. You were made to stand in truth, to walk in peace, and to love with strength, not desperation. And if that means fewer people understand you, so be it. If that means some call you harsh, so be it. If that means you lose a few friendships that were built on your silence and submission, let them go. You are not obligated to keep relationships that cost you your sanity. You are not required to be loyal to cycles that break your spirit. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing what brings you peace, protects your heart, and honors your growth. Too many people are suffering under the pressure of being the nice one, the dependable one, the one who never says no. And they're wearing smiles that don't match their spirit. But God didn't call you to be everyone's answer. He called you to be faithful to what He placed inside of you. And sometimes that faithfulness will look like distance. Sometimes it will look like silence. Sometimes it will look like walking away not in bitterness, but in wisdom. Because protecting your life is not selfish, it's sacred. And there are moments when the most powerful thing you can do is say, enough. I'm done pretending. I'm done being drained. I'm done being the person who holds everything together while falling apart inside. When you start walking like that, people may not understand you. They'll call you changed. They'll call you distant. They'll say you've lost your softness. But you haven't lost your softness, you've just learned where to place it. You've just learned that your kindness should not be scattered everywhere, but sown in places where it takes root and grows. You've just learned that your love should be guarded, not gambled. You've just learned that your time, your heart, and your energy are too valuable to keep giving to those who don't cherish them. So no, don't stop being kind. Don't let the world make your heart hard, but be kind with wisdom. Be kind with strength. Be kind with the clarity that knows when to stay and when to walk away. Let your kindness be fierce. Let it be honest. Let it be whole. And above all, let it serve not just others, but the life you were called to live. Because when your kindness is no longer a mask, but a reflection of strength, that's when you finally become free.